I'm standing on the stage because I fell in love with a goat farmer's ginger beer. His name was Willie. 3.5 years ago, we raised $20,000 on Kickstarter, and we started selling it at a farmer's market. We evolved into fermenting a gluten-free alcohol base and adding real ingredients: fresh cold-pressed ginger, lemon, turmeric, brown sugar, and water. The $111 billion beer industry is fragmenting. We believe we can bring in new customers, like millennials, to the beer category by bringing them what they want: sessionable, fruit-forward, gluten-free, and made with real ingredients. So we launched Willie's Superbrew. What is a Superbrew? Superbrew stands for superfoods and fermentation. We made it up because it gives us the white space to define who we are and what we stand for. We believe consumers deserve to know what is in their drinks. All of our products are made with real ingredients that are shown right on the can. Transparency is a key buzzword that is missing from this conference. Consumers everywhere are looking at their labels, turning them around, trying to figure out what they're putting in their bodies. They don't even have that option in alcohol. We have 2 flavors: sparkling pomegranate and acai, and sparkling ginger and lemon. Each flavor is made with real ingredients, 6 real ingredients that you can pronounce, and we have nutrition facts listed right on the side of the can. These brews taste awesome, and the flavors appeal across demographics and ethnicities. In the last 6 months, we have sampled 43,000 people, and we have 1 in 4 of those people purchasing our product after sampling. Food and Wine magazine said of our liquid, "For the family member who will literally not drink any beer, Willie's is a surprisingly complex and completely quaffable drink. Even the beer diehards in the house will be grabbing for one of these." We are set up for true quality and scale. We brew at Isle Brewers Guild in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Our brewmaster is the former brewmaster from Harpoon. We hit under 30 on our dissolved oxygen levels. And now we can scale across the East Coast without further investments in equipment. It also happens that we sell really well. This summer, we were in the top 10 best-selling SKUs in the entire beer category for one of the most influential grocery chains in Massachusetts. Our top 4 regional and national grocery partners are pushing us to expand throughout their footprint. And now, we are giving them what they want. We are expanding, and we are committing to trying to make a better world by donating 3% of profits to environmental causes. We will see you out there in the field. Thank you.
Nicely done. Hold on. Complex and quaffable is what Nico said. Tom, what do you think?
It's a good beverage. I mean, it's really nice. I think personally I would like to see a little more ginger heat on there, but I think it's going to work for a larger audience. I think it's pretty palatable. I get a hint today of a sulfur nose on the aroma, maybe a little bit of yeast bite from that. But I like that it's dry. And the only question I have is, reading the can, I really don't know what the ethanol source is. So I'm kind of curious if it's cane sugar derived or what that source is. And from a transparency standpoint, as a consumer, I just want to know where that's coming from.
Yeah, we use a cane sugar base. It took us about 45 iterations to really get to the point where it's clean and you're not getting sulfur and it's consistent every time. So we try and keep some of it proprietary, obviously.
Nico, if I could ask you to slide over. Yes. Perfect. You asked the question, Nico, what is Superbrew? We made it up. Fred, I heard you and Karmen chuckle a bit at that. What do you think of the name, Superbrew? What do you think of that description?
I'd love to first ask why the transition in kind of repositioning the brand of going from Farmer Willie's, which is very wholesome, to Willie's Superbrew. Can you talk about that?
So we actually had 2 years working with wholesalers as Farmer Willie's as our name, and they would always call it Uncle Willie's or Willie's Uncle or Farmer Willie. So it was one of those things where we need it short and punchy and memorable, and so Willie's allowed us that opportunity.
Gotcha. Well, I think the one thing that you're doing is you're bringing a fresh conversation, focusing on transparency, focusing on ingredients. Clearly something that is ever present in the food and beverage world in most people's lives. Everyone's cleaning up the food system. You're bringing that here to the alcohol space. So for me, the Farmer Willie's is a nice connection and thread. Superbrew does bring in some questions, especially with the rise of hard kombucha. We talked about this yesterday. Will people start to get confused around what category? Irregardless, the beverage speaks for itself, but the expectation of judging a book by its cover might cause a hurdle before people get into it.
Karmen, you look like you had a question for Nico. Or
May I answer that quickly?
Oh, absolutely, sure.
So, I think what we were aiming for is to reposition ourselves in a white space, because this is, I think, better for you alcohol is going to be very crowded.
Big time.
And so a big piece of our organization is like the fact that we know we took 43,000 samples. We literally record everything we do in the field. We're working with groups, talking to LilyPad and people like that who are at this conference, trying to build data in every piece of our approach. So we don't claim to have the perfect messaging right now. We launched this brand 6 months ago, but what we're doing is we're building an iterative process the way tech companies do to really understand everything we put in the field, every marketing material we put out. How do we bring this down to 3 words that are understandable and have impact? And I think as the years to come, we'll get there, hopefully.
Did that answer your question?
Partially. I think that my question is, as you know, you have had some hits in New England, and I know that you guys have expansion plans as well. What tactics specifically are you using to educate people about this thing that you made up, which I think is perfectly fine, but I'm curious about how you're going to let people know about it.
Yeah, we're aiming for kind of a 3-legged stool. So we're expanding with national chains. That gives us volume in a new market, and we know our customers are in grocery stores because they care about transparency and real ingredients there. That allows us to invest in having a person in the market, and it allows us to put time into on-premise and building programs that are targeted to places that have gluten-free menus. And then what we're aiming for is building the right testing programs that'll give us the right visibility in independent liquor stores. So basically having those 3 legs as like, okay, this is where we're going to get volume. And then as visibility grows, what we're aiming for is we'll be testing event strategies that are centered around new concepts that people aren't necessarily focusing on, not just athletic events, but where do we find people? Is it gaming conferences? Is it, and really seeing where do we hit a new like gold nugget, basically.
Okay.
Dave, similar markets, both in New England. You operate in Wormtown. I mean, do you see consumers looking for a product like Willie Superbrew, a really transparent, as Nico put it, transparent product?
Yeah, I mean, Willie's, the old farmer Willie's certainly was very prevalent in our marketplace. So this is a bold move and an interesting one, and understand the propositions. From my perspective, I think what I lost was I didn't realize that that's what this was. So when I went and researched your brand online, I didn't know anything about the story, and I didn't realize it was Willie's until when I was looking at where your brand was available on your map. I said, wait a minute, this is the Farmer Willie's, guys. Now it makes sense. So I think you need to do more in your social media of telling your story, of your transition from Farmer Willie's to Willie's Superbrew and what that is.
So I think that's a very good point. We basically elected, because we have a small team and limited resources, we're betting this is going to be, this is a $5 or $10 billion industry, better for you alcohol, in my opinion. No data really to back that, just $111 billion industry and all that. If you can really position yourselves in a way where you're bringing consumers that new value, that really they have that opportunity to have a canned drink they can bring anywhere that suddenly has the flavor and the health they're looking for, it's bigger than what the previous brand was. And we may have lost some customers, potentially, but our sales in our home region, after spending 2.5 years building that brand, are up 80%. And that's entirely new brand.
There's still a story there that both of us picked up on a little bit. You need to grasp a little bit more in there, but I get that.
Yeah, I agree.
Ryan, we're out of time, but you have a last word of the round.
Yeah, I mean, just one comment. I saw the 4.5% ABV. Is that part of your branding, or is that just a convenient place to put the ABV?
We are aiming to have consistent alcohol across all of our SKUs in Superbrew, to have a consistent brand to say this is sessionable every time.
Okay.
Outstanding. Well done. Thanks so much, Nico.